Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from DeltaCX.com. We're a full service CX and UX consultancy. We do projects, training, and consulting. And welcome to our every Friday stream, which is practicing critical thinking. Each week you send stuff in that you want me to break into a zillion tiny pieces and think critically about. So it's great practice to see how you and the people joining live would break stuff into pieces and see if it still makes sense. Is it a good idea? Is it well written? All kinds of things we tend to look for. If you would like to send something in for a future week, you certainly can. Just go to deltacx.com/links and you'll find a link there to send something in for practicing critical thinking, and I'll get it on the list. Let's see, what else can I tell you? As always, we like to thank the people who are donating to the YouTube channel, $3 to $10 per month, totally optional, but always appreciated, and it keeps me in streaming software and chocolate chips, so thank you so much. Let's take a look at what we've got today. I think we have 9 things today, and so we've got lots to break into little pieces, and I hope you will join in the chat room and let me know what you think about some of the things that we are going to be reading today. All right, let's see. Let's press this button. Alrighty, so as always, you've got me, you've got the chat room, you have the optional tip jar, and you have my screen. So we're going to start with a post from Tiago Almeida, who I don't think I know, but it's kind of a long post, got some likes, got some comments and stuff, but basically, if we look at it quickly, he says, "One big mistake I see a lot of design leaders and influencers making, writing a big expose about how they got into design and why they are where they are today. They then proceed to fall into the trap of thinking their journey into design is superior to other people's entry point and expose a bias toward people with the same background being better designers, hires, employees. Wrong. No background in design learning is superior to another. Traditionally educated designers are not worse than self-taught ones. Human-computer interaction designers are not more enlightened than bootcamp designers. No one's a category. We have strengths and weaknesses." And he goes on to say that this is important for diversity. Hey, I-10. I guess I agree. I mean, considering that I'm mostly self-taught and I didn't get a degree in this, I didn't go to a boot camp, I agree, and I think those of you who spend enough time with me know that I'm not too hung up on where you got educated. I only care about what you know, what you can do, and who you are. And so I'm not looking for some sort of echo chamber of only people who have a certain degree or only people who look a certain way or are from a certain country. So again, whenever I see these vague posts about, ooh, these design leaders are doing this, I really wish people would at least name a couple of names so I know who they're talking about, because I haven't seen this anywhere. Hey, Steph, I don't know who he's reading, but I haven't seen Larry Marine do this. I haven't seen Dr. Nick do this. I haven't seen Darren do this. Like, I don't know who are these design leaders who are doing this, but, you know, wherever you are, stop doing this. You know, talent, skill, education, knowledge, humanity. It's important to have that diversity, and we're going to have people from different backgrounds. We have a lot of career changers in UX. I welcome all of these people. You know, to me, if you've got the right heart and personality for this job and you go and you get some education and experience, I mostly don't care where you got that. Do I dislike boot camps? Yes. Do I think most uni degrees right now stink? Yup. But that doesn't mean that I wouldn't still welcome you into our world or help you or guide you or do any of that. I'm not rejecting people. So I wish I knew who he's talking about, but ultimately I would have to say I agree. So we've got lots of stuff today. Let's jump right in. This is this guy. And I would have to say, I'm not sure I've ever agreed with this guy, but let's go ahead and take a look. Now, first of all, let's remember that he is a manager at User Zoom. And we know that User Zoom and many of the what do you call it? The tools, the research tools out there now are pushing democratization of research. Democratization not meaning it's a democracy, but democratization meaning everybody gets to do research, whether or not they do it well. So we need to be warned that if he is saying that you're going to extend your research team's capability by letting other people do research, certainly I'm not going to agree with that. So he says, number one, you should democratize research. Democratization can be successful with careful planning and meaningful guardrails. Formal instruction programs. So remember, stop the important. So remember, I just wrote an article about this. You're starting. Hi, Raphael. Stoked to join you. Happy you're here. Itan says, User Zoom salespeople message me every week. I'm scared they'll show up at my house. Yeah. David says, starting off on the wrong foot. Yeah. Unless you drank the User Zoom flavor aid. So, yeah, so and I just wrote an article kind of adjacent to this. I wrote about should product managers do UX research or design? You can find that on Medium. Just Google should product managers research Levitt or Delta CX. You'll find me. And one of the many things I said in that quite long article was that, it's funny, we think we're solving a bottleneck problem by letting other people do research, but usually one of the first pieces of advice you see is, we're going to have to train these people. If product managers or engineers, marketers, business analysts are going to start doing research, we better create an academy and recipes and buddy systems. Well, hold on. This is already a department that has no time, and you are imagining they have the time to stop doing their mission critical research so they can be coaches and teachers and professors. And Larry says, what did I miss? Almost nothing, Larry. This is our second thing, and the first one was something I agreed with, so you're good. So again, this is unrealistic, and I think with critical thinking, this falls apart quickly. It's like saying, you don't have enough time to cook me dinner. Well, why don't you just put out all the ingredients and chop them up and find me a recipe and put everything in the pan, and then I'll cook dinner. It just does not make sense and does not hold up, I think, to any sort of critical thinking. It doesn't hold up to possible outcomes, because I always find that research democratization suggestions imagine this goes great. Everybody ends up doing great research really well, yet when you talk to design leaders or you read the articles about people who said, I tried this and it didn't work, it's always like a lot of people ended up doing mediocre or bad research that we decided we just had to put a stop to it. The component skills of a research practice, blah, 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 motivated non-researchers with the right background and personality should be at least as capable as junior researchers. That's not true. That's just not true. And I would say, and as I say in my other article, the best way to test this is to take the people these non-researchers that you claim have a good background, and interview them as if you are interviewing them for a junior researcher job. If you feel that they're going to be at least as capable, put them through what we put a junior candidate through. Does their background really match? Do they have any education? Do they have any experience? Do they have a research portfolio? If you're going to tell me that they are probably at least as capable, we don't have to guess at that, and we don't have to just take it as fact because this guy wrote it on the screen. We can find that out. We can find if they're at least as capable. And meanwhile, remember, while you are letting other people do research job, that's a junior you didn't hire. That's an apprentice you didn't hire. So while you're busy helping other people do our work, often badly, you're not even growing your own department, and you're teaching leaders, we don't need to grow our department. Anybody can do our work with just a little template. They just need a little template or recipe. You know, on the surface, I would say, I don't get this guy. I really don't. It's hard for me to have respect for someone who can so carelessly cut away at the industry in which he's a manager. Can you imagine working for him? Can you imagine being a researcher under him when he believes anybody can do your job with a little template or recipe? I wonder what kind of revolving door that is, or if they've just decided to pay people like Facebook pays people to keep them no matter what. Larry says, if you believe non-researchers can be just as capable as a trained researcher, do you really know what researchers do? Excellent question. And this guy is a UX researcher manager at UserZoom with a PhD in human factors. You would think he knows. So I don't get it. Is he just okay with being unethical? Is UserZoom paying him that much? I don't get it. And then, of course, here's his other suggestion. As if the first one was really great, let's automate research. Automate research. Just use AI tools. Just use AI tools and Hotjar. That's gonna be great. I don't know why y'all send me this guy. Time after time, I disagree with him. I think it's embarrassing for him to write these things and have a PhD in human factors. He should be embarrassed. He should be embarrassed at how he is helping to chip away at our profession, helping to prove that we're not specialized, we're not important. He went and got a PhD, but now he's acting like anybody can do this. Raphael says, isn't it a little bit like UXers being asked to do UI work mostly? I don't even know. I'm not even sure there's a parallel there, but David says, he is writing nonsense. Ekta says, hi. Hi, Ekta. Larry says, scorecard, baby. Yeah, you know, you would think that if he is a manager at UserZoom, he would have so much data on this. He would have absolute data on this. Hey, here's how we're doing it at UserZoom, and here's how well it's working. I've got our salespeople doing research. You know, where is the data? Where are the case studies? Now, even so, those could be cherry-picked. Let's think critically. Even a case study or an example is likely to be cherry-picked as a good example. It would be more balanced if you had an example of where democratization worked and an example of where democratization ended up a really bad idea. That at least would have both sides. But yeah, where's the proof that this will deliver the results and outcomes we want? When you treat research like it just has to be checked off, we checked off the box, we did it, then sure, anybody can do it. And I can cut your hair, but you might not be happy that I did. All right, let's move on. We got lots today. So, it's funny. This website looks very different now that I'm in a private browser. I opened up this website in a not private browser, and I had trouble navigating it. And that's because we've been talking a lot lately about should product managers do UX research and other work. So my thought was, why don't we all go get trained to be product managers? Why don't we all just go get a product management certificate, and then we can just have our own freaking jobs? So I was looking at this website's certifications, and I found that I couldn't even navigate the website. So there must be something in my non-private browser that's blocking their navigation. That's really bizarre. So that's bad. So I couldn't tell what their curriculum was. Product strategy, product objectives, identify opportunities, understand customers and problems. So you can already see that in product management, they appear to be teaching things that could end up in the UX world. Now, of course, if they're saying understand customers and problems by partnering with great UX researchers and giving them the time, budget, and headcount to do great work, yes, thumbs up, more of that, please. If they're saying do your own research, don't worry about the UX researchers, you don't need them, or forget it, whatever it is, not good. Creating and testing hypotheses, Now they're suggesting designing your product. So this is an example of where I'm seeing in product management a land grab on UX tasks. So on both, so here you can see in order to become a certified product manager, you're evidently going to learn to do research, do testing, and do design. That doesn't sound like a product manager. It's just not. Oh, hi, Manuel. Didn't see you here. So just a warning to everybody that I think this is going to be a huge land grab. And, you know, in UX, you might be old enough to, or working long enough in UX to remember when our biggest problem was engineering, that engineers were kind of trying to control UX because, ooh, we have to be agile, and UX, you're not agile. And that was, you know, we were always running on a treadmill dealing with engineers. I think the wave we're seeing and will continue seeing is product management is having an identity crisis. And we know this because y'all keep sending me articles about product management is going to go away. I think they're having an identity crisis. And I think it's, and I wrote about this in the Should Product Managers Do User Experience Work Medium article, which I am going to be reading on next week's show. So I've been referencing it, and I'm sorry, not next, is it next week or is it, I think it's the week after. I think it's right before I take some time off. So I am going to be reading that one live coming up in the next week or two. So we'll be definitely talking more about product managers and their bloodlust for UX tasks and what we should be looking out for. Okay. One of you had the fantastic sense of humor to send me a Jared Spool tweet. Now, in my opinion, there are few things as hilarious as Jared Spool tweets, especially because, for a couple of reasons. Nadu says, what is the name of the website? Yeah, I forgot that because of the title at the top, people can't see what website I'm on. This is productschool.com. Obviously not sponsored. I do not suggest that anybody give them their money. And certainly if I decide to get a product manager certification just because, it won't be from them. So do not want. I10 says, look, good old friend Jared. Yeah, it's going to be a good day when someone sends me a Jared Spool thing. Now, again, two reasons why sending me a Jared Spool tweet is hilarious is number one, his tweets do not age well. And number two, they're often in conflict with each other. You know, for example, one of his tweets is making the rounds again and people are sharing it. And it's that tweet that says that great designers don't have a portfolio. They're too busy to have a portfolio. That tweet's going around again. And we could do a whole show just on that tweet and how it's not true. But I can tell why he wrote it. But the funny thing about that tweet is it's actually dated 2016. And people are passing it around as if it's current advice, and it's not. So take a look at this one. This is 2017. So it just... a year-ish after Jared Spool tweeted that the best designers don't have a portfolio. They don't need a portfolio. They're too busy. The best designers, great designers have no portfolio. I think we've all seen that tweet by now. Look at what he's tweeting. The key phrase is missing from practically every portfolio case study I read. Oh, you're reading portfolios? I thought great designers didn't have portfolios and didn't need portfolios. Which one is it? Jared Spool often plays two sides of the same issue. And that's a common tactic that a lot of people use. That way you get fans on both sides of the issue. You'll get the pro-portfolio people. You'll get the anti-portfolio people. And if they're not paying attention and not critically thinking, they won't see where your stuff undoes itself. Because he's got a lot of stuff that undoes itself. And I think a lot of people don't notice. In fact, when I posted to LinkedIn with a screenshot from one of his webinar promotions that said, like, you know, you're going to learn how to teach the agile team how to do UX work. And I posted that, and a couple of people wrote in under that and said, no, Jared Spool wouldn't teach that. No, he really stands for UX. He's not, that's not what he's going to teach. He'll teach you something that stands for UX. And I said, are you not reading what he wrote? This is a screenshot of his webinar description. He's going to teach you to have engineers do UX work and he says that's good enough, why do you assume he's better than the actual words on the screen? There's something about him that makes people turn off their critical thinking, and we also know this because he and I have almost no fans in common. This is the Venn diagram, because I'm pushing critical thinking, and I think once people start critical thinking, they move away from him. Larry says, are you sure he even wrote the tweet? No, I'm definitely not sure he, you can tell when Jared writes a tweet because it's usually bitter and acidic. Raphael says, oh, snap. Oh, I haven't heard that in decades. Busted. Yeah. So let's just take this at face value, despite my ongoing dislike for Jared, multidimensionally. Jared says, in 2017, key phrases missing from practically every portfolio case study I read is, the challenge we ran into was, I realized we didn't understand. Our first attempt to address this challenge was, we learned these critical things we never knew about our users. Well, does he need to see those exact words? Portfolio case studies that portray the project as proceeding perfectly are not realistic, not interesting, not showing the most important facet of your skill set, your capacity to learn and adapt. So I want to make sure that you recognize that he believes the most important thing in your skills is to learn and adapt. I'm sure there will be some tweets somebody can find where he says the opposite. Also, notice I use we and our in those phrases. Yes, design is a team sport. Solo work does not show your capacity to work on a team. Also false. Just because you did UX work yourself doesn't mean you were not involved on a team. So again, all you have to do is take a sentence Jared Spool says and ask yourself, is this true? How do I know if this is true? So let's practice this. Solo work doesn't not show? So wait, does he mean it does show? I assume that's a typo. I assume he means solo work doesn't show your capacity to work on a team, even though he's got doesn't not show. What? So you can start to break that down. Solo work doesn't show your capacity to work on a team. Why not? What's missing? Why would he say that? Now, of course, we don't have him here, but why? Why? So, and is the opposite true? Solo work can show your capacity to work on a team. Yeah, because it depends on what solo work means. If you did the UX, but then someone else was the product manager, other people were engineers, there was a stakeholder, you are working on a team. You don't have to have 17 UX people doing a project for you to show teamwork. So yeah, no. But as always, and this is something I've said about Jared Spool repeatedly, it's not a communication from Jared Spool without a sales pitch. So keep reading or listening until you find the sales pitch. Like if you listen to his UX tipping point talk, it's really an hour setup for a sales pitch on his training. Take a look at this one. For our center students, so he's mentioning his own school, his $60,000 boot camp. For our center students, we're teaching them to show their skill growth through their portfolio. Each student will play key roles on multiple long-term real-world projects. So now he's selling you on his boot camp, and you have to remember 2017 was the rise of the boot camp. So he wanted to get in on that cash. Our not-so-secret goal is to make each of our students the best, most desirable new designers on the planet. So notice this. This is where critical thinking is important. Notice how we went from, there's things that I'm not seeing from people's portfolio to, you really need to go to my school. You just have to read Jared Spool's stuff, maybe say it out loud, stop and listen to what you just said. It undoes itself every time. I don't even have to try. All right, we got into things that were questions without articles, so let's talk about them. One of them said this: I'd like to get your opinion on this excerpt from the book About Face, page 59 in Task Analysis. Larry says, I've searched, but I've yet to identify anything Jared has actually designed. Does anyone have insight on this question? No, and in fact, I looked at his LinkedIn, and he evidently went from software developer to experience design management professor. What can I say? Magic. So here's the quote from the book About Face, and I'll read it out loud, and then we'll chop it up with some critical thinking. And I want everyone who's watching live to join in, because there's over 20 of you, and I want to see what you hear when I read this out loud. As I read it, type in the chat what you're hearing. Task analysis is a critical way of understanding. Oh, and Larry, not you. I want to hear everybody else first, not Larry yet. We know what Larry thinks. Task analysis is a critical way of understanding how users currently do something, as well as identifying pain points and opportunities for improvement. However, task analysis does little to illuminate users' goals. How people do things today is often a product of the obsolete systems and organizations they're forced to interact with. How people do things often bears little resemblance to how they would like to do things or how they can be most effective. Yeah, so before Larry and I chime in on this, I want to hear everybody else. David, Steph, even Manuel, Nedu, you're new here, but maybe you're starting to catch on with all of our wacky stuff. Raphael, I-10, what do you think? Would you say that task analysis does little to illuminate users' goals? I'm going to wait for some people to type stuff. I know we're about 40 seconds delayed sometimes, so I'm going to wait. I want to see what people say. Unfortunately, it's not like Zoom or Slack, like I can't see that you're typing. I hope you're typing. Yeah. And by the way, speaking of Slack, we are displeased to hear that Slack is continuing to cut away at free plans, which our community is on, and we are starting to think about moving to Discord. If you have an opinion on that, I'd love to hear it. We are already playing around in a Discord server. If you'd like to join us there and join the Discord experiment, you can find it at deltacx.link/Discord. We'd love to see you there and see what you think of it versus Slack. David says task analysis in the strict sense could maybe be portrayed that way, but if you do it smartly, it can illuminate so much more. Steph says, I'm doing task analysis on people using Excel sheets, and trust me, I do understand their goals with those sheets. So, strange. Yeah, so let's break this down. Now, one thing that, so first of all, this is an argument that has been designed to be difficult to disagree with. He starts you out with something that's true. Task analysis is a critical way of understanding how users currently do something, as well as identifying pain points and opportunities for improvement. We agree with that. And then we agree with the end of it. How people do things today is often a product of the obsolete systems and organizations they're forced to interact with. How people do things often bears little resemblance to how they'd like to do things or how they could be most effective. We probably agree with that too. And I find that what happens in a paragraph like this is our brain just goes into a little bit of autopilot, and we take the thing in the middle as probably also true. And we don't stop and think critically about all the pieces that are being said. So in this case, when he says task analysis does little to illuminate users' goals, he actually doesn't really explain that. He goes on to just say, but how people do things today is this, that, and the other thing. That's fine, but that's got nothing to do with task analysis illuminating or not illuminating users' goals. Now, when I think about a user's goals, and especially in the, I guess in the lens of task analysis, and Larry, I'll allow you to chime in now. Just remember, YouTube cuts you off at 200 characters or so. When I think about users' goals, and especially in the context of task analysis, I think of a user's goal as an accomplished task. The user's goal is to get a task done, whatever that task is. Maybe today the task is price comparison, but not buying. So my task is compare prices, but not necessarily buy anything. And that means my goal would be to feel like I've done my task. Larry says, however accurate the paragraph begins, it misses the point that good task analysis should be solution agnostic rather than documenting how how to use an existing tool. Yes, a great point I had not made. So thank you, Larry. So yes, how people do things now is a thing, but task analysis should be solution agnostic. We're not totally hung up on what tool they're using now. I10 says, when somebody criticizes something, I expect them to offer a better option. Like, okay, it's not enough, but what should we do? I agree. I see things like this sometimes from the jobs to be done crowd because they're trying to sell their books and their training. And so they're saying, no, task analysis isn't good because you're really not going to understand this. I think even someone sent me an NNG website quote trying to make it sound like task analysis wasn't good at something. And it's just wrong. Larry Marine says solution agnostic research more accurately identifies the goal. Steph says I would need more context because I saw task analysis taught as right steps someone does when interacting with their current system, which is not what Larry teaches. Right, so that's another good question. Are you using a good definition of task analysis or a not so good definition of task analysis? Larry says task analysis is a two-part process. Number one, the current task. Number two, the optimized task. I know this won't look good on a white background, but yeah, we talk about this all the time on this channel. If you're new here, go check out our micro lessons playlist on YouTube. In fact, don't forget to subscribe. We'd love to see more subscribers here now that we've broken 5,000. I'm hoping some of our shadow banned bad luck will be changing. So please do subscribe, and if you're enjoying the content and you know people interested in UX, please tell them as well. So obviously the person who sent this was doing their own critical thinking. So I really applaud the person who sent this. They knew that something wasn't right here. And maybe they knew what wasn't right here. But they definitely knew something wasn't right here. And they sent it in for us to break it into pieces here on the critical thinking stream. So I would disagree that task analysis does little to illuminate users' goals. And again, this sounds like I don't know what came after this. And I haven't read this book and I don't have this book. But it sounds like, don't do this, I'm going to sell you this other thing, but I don't know what he then suggests. Does anybody who remembers page 59 from About Face know what is that, Alan Cooper then tells you should do? I don't know. Let's move on to the next one. Oh, David says, there are some frameworks, Lean is one example, where task analysis is just the evaluation of the current process. Possible. Yeah, so I guess that's interesting. There could be multiple definitions of task analysis, and which one does he mean? I don't know. Larry says, if your task analysis doesn't identify user goals, you've done it wrong. Okay, that's a pretty good success criteria. I like it. Okay, we're only halfway through. So this is an article from a couple of weeks ago, and it says, human-centered design is broken. Here's a better alternative. Now, in order for me to think this article is not complete garbage and clickbait, he's going to have to assuming Jesse is male, he is going to have to lay out a good argument that human-centered design is broken. And I think that's going to be difficult to do because human-centered design is a fluid and flexible process that works. David says, I bet it says design thinking. I don't know. Let's see what he says. I wrote, design won't save the world. It focused on the limits of human-centered design and the failure to impact the big problems we face. By centering on the human perspective, we also center our narrow definition of success. I can't tell if that's a good thing or a bad thing. And he says this again here. We also center our narrow definition of success. We believe business metrics and economic growth are the end-all, be-all of whom... No, we don't. That doesn't make sense. If you are centering the human perspective, then you're probably not thinking as much or at all about business metrics and economic growth. This is a false setup. David says, oh, this one is dangerous. Raphael says, that's a bold statement. Steph says, I'm just going to say, don't trust the Medium articles about task analysis. Bootcamp asked students to write Medium posts about that method. The level of noise is high. That's true. Larry says, just because he doesn't know how to drive doesn't mean that cars are poorly designed. Ooh, that one gets a little fire. So, yeah, I think that this person has not done a good job setting up the premise. In order for me to buy your alternative, you have to prove to me that the thing that I've been doing for over 20 years and Larry for over 30 years is not working. It's broken. And I feel like we have not done that. We heard that you've sat around with you've linked to your wife. You've linked to your wife. You've linked to Wikipedia. And I'm not seeing it here. But he suggests bee-centered design. What? What? I'm surprised UX Magazine published this. It's quite strange. Widening our view to the world. Hey, he's at University of Colorado Boulder. Larry, you want to drive over there and shout at him a bit? I'm not too sure what's going on here. Oh, he does say design thinking. Oh, David gets a point. David, you win. Good job, David. I10 said, okay, when I said offer a better alternative when you criticize something, I didn't mean this. Yeah, we've got bees working in service of their hive and design thinking. Our current frameworks root us in processes and problems, which again, he wants you to accept is bad. Or is that good? I can't tell. Design thinking is rooted in empathy, optimism, iteration, creative confidence, experimentation, and an embrace of ambiguity and failure. Now, it's got quotes, but he's got no citations. So who said that? I don't know. This is about process, not outcomes. Well, look, we know design thinking is not about that, but human-centered design is about process leading to outcomes, if I had to use your same words. David says, quick scan of the article suggests he's putting his own subjective, ethical, and moral frameworks above user-centered design. Larry says, has he designed anything? Who can say, Larry? But if we had bee-centered design, we would widen our view of the world. How do people, this also wins. Everybody knows what I'm going to roll out now. Meaningful, actionable, and helpful. It should be actionable. What do I do now? Human-centered thinking keeps us locked in our human-centered bubble, and we need to break out. To do what? To do what differently? So I'm just going to have to go with clickbait on this one. I think it really doesn't make sense. David says, oh, quick, trademark bee-centered design. Yeah, Whitney says break out to where? That's what I'm saying. So giant pass on this one. Not buying it at all. Prediction, bee-centered design will not take off. All right, let's move on. So someone sent me a PDF of Maze, their playbook for UX leaders to democratize research. Now, this plays into what we talked about just earlier when we looked at User Zoom pushing democratizing research. User Zoom is a UX research tool, so is Maze. So, of course, Maze is going to tell you that you need to... Now, of course, notice the quote they start with. They didn't start with a quote about the importance of research. They started with a quote about your learning culture. So you can tell where this is going to go. They're going to say, or at least it seems like we're being set up for them to say, it's so important for everybody to do research because that would show a strong learning culture. And remember, you don't have to fall for these types of arguments, because democratizing research and the strength of a learning culture may not have much in common, maybe unrelated. Larry says man bites dog. Stephanie says bee-centered design. Whitney says he'll suggest the hive mind next. I think he did suggest the hive mind. So I don't need to go too deep into a playbook where a UX tool promotes democratization. We know that many of them are promoting democratization because that's how they make money. The more people you have using Maze because you've democratized research, the more money Maze makes. Or whether it's by licenses or usage or other things. But of course, I would remind these tools that they can also make a lot of money when UX teams hire. We don't have to have non-UX people doing UX work for Maze to make more money. Why doesn't Maze say UX research is important, it's specialized, more people should be doing it, a ratio of 1 person to 5 is not enough, hire more UX people? Why not write a playbook on a document on why it's important to hire more researchers? Why write a 53-page document on why you probably don't need to hire more people and you can just scoop up anybody at your workplace and teach them research? Oh, where's Hang when we need him? The playbook is brought to you by Maze and ADP List. So let's all remember next time we're talking about ADP List, that ADP List co-authored a 53-page document on democratizing research. So next time a UX researcher goes to an ADP List mentor and says, I'm struggling at my job. I hate my job. They think anybody can do research. They got this crazy playbook from Maze. I hope that ADP List mentor will say, and ADP List co-wrote that. Whoever that is. So there you go. Larry says 53 pages. Who's going to read this? Steph says, well, someone has to mentor all of those new people doing research. Yeah, maybe it's that snake-eating tail thing. So pass. And especially if ADP List is filled with mentors, in air quotes, who are for democratizing research, what do they tell people who come to them for mentoring who are against it and who are struggling in their job because of it? Do they try to talk them into it being good? I don't like the outcomes of any of this. This all sounds crappy. I'm not happy with any of this. All right, we got 3 more. This is a Reddit thread that says, what methods do you use to analyze a moderated usability test? What tools? How would you quickly move through hours of video recording to actionable insights and overwhelmed junior UXer? I like Dovetail for that. Of course, not sponsored. Maybe I'll like somebody else next year. But I do like Dovetail. I think that can help. Here's someone who says, I watch and listen to recordings on 1.6 to 2x speed. I record pain points, themes, high-level information, and I pull quotes. Make sure to timestamp occasionally. Someone says, hey, I do that too. And I put stuff in Miro. Someone says you either get someone to transcribe or you have to transcribe it afterwards, or you use Otter or Dovetail or something that will transcribe it relatively accurately for you. Get foot pedals so you can play and pause while typing. I like that idea. So you're not losing time moving your mouse. That's a neat idea. Yeah, this person says, brilliant, foot pedals. Try using Dovetail. It's pricey and has limited hours. It's not that bad. Seriously, I'm using Dovetail and I'm paying for Dovetail, and the price is not that bad. This person says otter, which I just said as well. So yeah, I think number one, you can save some time if something has already transcribed for you. I think you can save some time if you're comfortable listening at a higher speed. But if it is a visual recording where you're watching someone do something, I would not watch at a higher speed, because part of the reason that you are looking at those videos again is to catch not just what people said, but what people did. So typically, I am recommending putting 2 juniors on this, and that way you're not asking one person to watch what might be 120 hours. I mean, you might have, let's say you did 30 videos, but let's say it's taking them 3, 4, 5 hours each because of starting and stopping and note-taking and coding and tagging and whatevering. That's 150 hours of work. That's a full-time month. Nobody wants to wait a month for that. So ultimately, when you are doing your planning, best to put 2 juniors on this type of analysis so that it can take 2-ish weeks rather than 4-ish weeks. That would be my suggestion, but good luck, Overwhelmed Junior. Okay, this is from Indeed's blog. It says, Indeed Design, the art of storytelling for case studies. Structuring a case study. The background, the process, the outcome. So again, I think this one's going to end up a little bit no shit Sherlock, but sure, if you're going to tell a story, it needs a beginning, middle, and an end. Yes, done. Okay, so who is this project for? Company, freelance, or is it fake, or was it school? What problem existed and for whom? Or maybe you don't know the problem yet. Remember, that's okay too. If you are going to show your research or someone else's research, maybe you haven't defined the problem until you've done the research, and that's okay too. Don't feel like you have to start out with a problem statement when sometimes great UX work starts out with doing the work to define the problem statement and write that statement. So what was your role in solving that problem? So were you on team, other people involved? What did you do? Larry says you'd be surprised how few people know the simple and standard format. The process. How did you kick off the project? What steps were taken? What were the deliverables along the way? Also, I suggest that people include how they made decisions. If something happened where you could do this or this, anything that went a little funky, these are good things to write about. And the outcome. What was the solution? Did you have quantifiable results? Did you have non-quantifiable impact? And what did the team learn? I usually leave off what did the team learn, but there you go. So I don't think this is a bad article. Sounds okay. I'm not sure you have to use these layouts necessarily, but I think in general this article is probably okay. And finally, someone sent me a screenshot from their email. It looks like a recruiter or sourcer of some sort sent them a role. Bilingual senior design researcher, remote, 6 to 12 months with high possibility of extension. Now the job description starts, so this person obviously drew a box around this for my benefit. Steph says, I smell a future podcast on that topic. Which topic? We already did storytelling and we've done portfolios a bunch of times, like episode 148. Hey everybody, please subscribe to the Delta CX YouTube channel. And since we have over 600 videos, remember, if you're ever wondering about something, just go to YouTube and write Delta CX and a couple of keywords and see what we've got. Okay, so this is what they drew the box around on this job description, and it says the candidate must have a minimum of 5 years of cumulative experience performing research duties. Okay, so that's senior level. That makes sense. The next sentence says, any gaps in between projects or assignments do not count toward the 5 years. I think that's interesting. It tells me what kind of stuff this recruiter tends to get. Steph says, oh, sorry, you sometimes have a research question, sometimes not. I don't know. I think this is interesting. I don't think I disagree with this person. I think that if you worked in UX research for 4 years and then went into marketing for 6 years, you wouldn't be able to say you have 10 years of UX research experience, you would be able to say you have 4 years of UX research experience and then you went and did something else. So I think that would just be honest. Just because time has passed doesn't mean you have active experience in something in particular. So I think that's interesting. It makes me think that maybe somebody had 2 years of research experience and then did something else for a few years, or might have been unemployed in the pandemic, and then tried to say they have 5 years of experience because they started researching 5 years ago. This kind of reminds me of another thing that I've heard from a few people that I thought was obvious, but turned out to be confusing for some people. And that was, do you see the way that this is written, saying you must have a minimum of 5 years performing research duties? And I see why they've written it that way. It seems a little bit hard-ass, but what they're going for is, I've had people say to me, well, look, I have 10 years as a market researcher and I'm trying to transition into UX. So couldn't I be a senior? I'm a mature person. I've had multiple corporate jobs. I know what corporate work is like, and I've done this other thing. And I see why they're saying this, because sometimes I have to say to people like, hey, your 10 years as a marketer might not matter if you're now trying to be a UX designer or a UX researcher. If you can't show 5 years doing this job, then they might not be interested. They want someone who has done this job for 5 years, not any job on the planet, not, oh, I was a marketer for 5 years. That doesn't count. So this person is just being very clear. I think it reads a little bit cold, but I don't think they're wrong. Larry says, I think it's describing the case of someone who does research 1 month out of the year for 5 years. It's not 5 years of research experience. Ooh, Larry, you know what that makes me think of? Maybe it's some of these people who are newer to UX and they put themselves out as a freelancer. But then when you look at their work, as you've said, they've only gotten very sporadic work and very small jobs. So they've been a freelancer for 4 years, but they've actually done 3 small jobs. So they're saying, no, we want you to have 5 years total, not, of real research work. 5 years of work, not 5 years of time having passed during which you did a couple of things. I think they're right. I think what they're saying is fair. I think if you really want someone with 5 years of experience and you want a senior, this is technically the correct description of what 5 years of UX research experience looks like, versus some of the other ways where we see people try to say, well, but I have this thing and it could look like this, and maybe I could say 5 years because I've been a freelancer even though I didn't get a lot of work. So again, I think this is written a little bit cold and factual, but I think it's honest and I think it's clear. So I think it gets points for clarity. I think it's pretty clear. I think it would be hard to read this and say, well, my 5 years of marketing is probably good enough. Now, of course, I think they probably should have said UX researcher or something to be clearer, because someone might say, oh, I was in marketing and I did marketing research. So I think this could be even clearer, but I see what they're shooting for here, and I can't complain or disagree. Alrighty. Whoa, it's me. So thanks to everybody for joining the Practicing Critical Thinking stream. We do this every Friday. Let's take a look at what shows are happening next week, because we have some fun and interesting things planned. Monday, of course, will be Think Out Loud, where we will be taking a look at continuing the Disney Vacation Club project. It'll be our 3rd episode working on it. We'll get into some design. On the 26th, we've got Office Hours Ask Us Anything with a very special guest. Who can guess who's our guest next week? Nobody. Raphael says, yeah, I would agree this clarification works. Honesty in job postings is welcome. Yeah. Yes, Janice is correct. Our extremely special guest will be my boyfriend, Pier Mario. He will be here to celebrate 5,000 subscribers, of which we are extremely proud and excited. And we're going to play a game. He is going to try to answer the question as me before I answer the question. Because we share a home office, he hears pretty much everything I say. And I'm wondering if now, 2 years into the YouTube show, almost 2 now, almost 3 years into the YouTube channel now. I started it right before the pandemic. Yow. Can he answer the questions with what I'm going to say before I answer the questions? So it's going to be a little bit fun and a little bit serious question answering. Larry said, well, you said special. That leaves me out. Oh, stop. Steph says, moo-hoo-hoo, I need to send fun questions. Udipta says, woohoo. Yeah, Udipta keeps claiming he's going to ask about our vacation. Okay, you can, but you could also just see it on Instagram. Tuesday, office hours plus special guest to celebrate 5,000 subscribers. Wednesday, we're also doing something special. What was that? We've got Hang coming back. Everybody's favorite dude, Hang Zhu, is going to come back, and he's going to talk about, he signed up for LinkedIn Recruiter, and he's going to show us what recruiters see in the LinkedIn system to try to help us navigate how to apply for jobs on LinkedIn, because of it'll probably help us with applying and our profiles, because he's going to show us what recruiters see, because he signed up for Recruiter Lite. So check that out next Wednesday, the 27th of July, 2022. And we're not going to have a Thursday show. I think that's when Darren does his chit chat. I try to not overlap that out of respect for him. And then Friday is practicing critical thinking. And as I said earlier, we are fooling around on a Discord server because we might decide to leave Slack if they're going to continue squeezing free plans. So if you'd like to come play with us and experiment, you can join the Discord server at deltacx.link/Discord. It's completely free. The Delta CX community is free. Whether it's on Slack or Discord or anything else, it is free. You are welcome to join. So come experiment with us in Discord and let's see if it's better than Slack, or why not. With that, I'm going to play us out of here. Everybody, thank you for everything that you sent in. A great smorgasbord, a great buffet this week of wacky stuff. Thank you for sending it in. Everybody have a super weekend, and I will definitely see you Monday. Thanks. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are